Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice. And by the way, the opening sequence of Ice Cap Zone is still very iconic even to this day. And what's even better, it is nice to be able to hear the original version of this particular music in the background, because unlike in Sonic Origins though, it was obviously based off from the prototype soundtrack. So I digress. So anyways, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 game as a standalone version of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So, for the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. So, last time, we've essentially did manage to traverse into not one, but two zones, which are Marble Garden Zone alongside with Carnival Night Zone. And all in all, we did those two zones no problem, so generally speaking though, yeah, we didn't come across into any deaths on it so far, at least for now anyway. So today for this video is that we're about to be continuing things on in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version. Now as far as I'm aware, we're about to be going into the final two zones in Sonic 3 standalone version, which there are Ice Cap Zone and eventually Launch Base Zone, the final zone in Sonic 3 standalone version. So just to ensure for the fact that after all we've already claimed all 7 Chaos Emeralds, so this means about the fact that we might as well able to see the good ending in the game, although despite the fact that the entire game itself is entirely incomplete, especially concerning for the fact that, like I stated earlier, that this was originally going to be a ginormous game into the forms of trying to able to release it in 1994, but because, again, due to time constraints, the game is split into two parts, which are, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version and Sonic & Knuckles standalone version as well. So either way though, I suppose no matter what though, is about the fact that hopefully by that time, once we finish up with this game entirely, then I suppose no matter what though, I don't suppose if I could ask Knuckles to able to actually decide to tackle through Sonic & Knuckles eventually though, but either way though, we shall wait and see what happens in due time, because as far as I'm aware, yes, today's date of course there is the 9th of November today, in some cases in 2024 today, so as a result, no matter what though, is about the fact that I'm pretty sure that we've only got about exactly 3 more days to go until Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be releasing on Disney Plus for sure, and thus not to mention though is about the fact that of course, much like any other 1st of November releases during that time, that about the fact I don't suppose if you noticed, but yes, season 35 for The Simpsons has already came out on Disney Plus. And what I thought was a little bit weird is that we're about to be receiving lesser amounts of episodes of The Simpsons for the sake of the forms of season 35, which I'm not exactly sure why that's the case, but regardless of everything else though, this means I can finally able to actually get a chance to experience one of those episodes in particular, which appears to be Lisa gets a F1 episode, which I do know for a fact it does manage to contain a Mario Kart reference here and there. Specifically though, based off from Rainbow Road, I won't classify the same based off from Mario Kart Wii counterpart of Rainbow Road, although I may be wrong, mainly because no matter what though, it has been about a couple of days ago since I actually have last seen certain episodes of The Simpsons lately. So either way though, and thus not to mention though, is about the fact that speaking of which though, for those of you that are still the bronies out there, myself included, basically though, there's another thing I totally forgot to mention about. That's what it appears to be for the fact that, well, there's this particular special called, let's just say Holidays Unwrapped. Well, basically though, yeah, the My Little Pony Equestria Girls Holidays Unwrapped has officially became 5 years old ever since in 2019, despite the fact that that particular special did came out a year after the My Little Pony Universe version, which appears to be the best gift ever during the forms of in 2018. So even then though, kind of a weird gap in regards to the forms of trying to release the Christmas specials when it comes to the forms of two different universes when it comes to like both My Little Pony and Equestria Girls throughout. So anyway, so now we're done with the forms of Act 1, now let's move on to Act 2 of Ice Cap Zone. I mean, relatively speaking though, luckily though, we can able to actually complete the entire zone in the quickest way imaginable, especially concerning for the fact that unlike in the Carnival Night Zone, specifically in Act 2, that I feel like that certain segments are kind of slow at one point, mainly due to the fact that we have to go for water every once in a while, and on top of that with this infamous barrel segment here and there. Like, as to be expected, you have to press up and down rhythmically until you're able to actually pass that part. So either way though, now, whenever I first got to this particular level back then, specifically the Sonic Mega Collection compilation, that I just could never for the life of me, for some reason, I just could never seem able to actually pass Ice Cap Zone when I was younger. Well, that's mainly because back in the day, it was pretty new to me at first glance. But then again though, the more I'm grown older, then I'm having a lot of enjoyable time with that particular zone as a result. Not only for its amazing music, based off from or inspired by, you know what I'm saying, Michael Jackson and stuff like that, because my goodness, the music really does manage to fit this level really dang well, especially concerning for the fact that no wonder why a lot of players back in the day really do prefer the original OST for the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 version, at least as far as I'm concerned. Well, mind you about the fact that, like I stated before, that unlike in Sonic Origins though, that it does manage able to contain some music have been replaced based off from the likes of the prototype version of Sonic 3, but regardless of such though, including with the phones of the PC version as well, specifically in 1997 version of, you know, Sonic & Knuckles collection, but that's besides the point. So anyways, here we go with this next boss fight right here. Again, this boss is a total cakewalk as Supersonic because, well, what do you expect? We actually got ourselves a lot of rings, and there we go. We somehow beaten Ice Cap Zone within just about under 8 minutes. So even I know that's actually pretty swell, at least specifically both acts combined. So either way, so now let's go plow for the snow, which pretty much leads us to, as to be expected, the final zone in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version, or technically if you ever played Sonic 3 and Knuckles combined, it will be the next zone after all, but the ones I'm referring to as is the final zone in Sonic 3 alone, and that's of course Launch Bay Zone, with of course the catchiest music out of them all though, and on top of that the background looks so detailed. So either way though, but then again though, I very appreciate able to actually hear the Michael Jackson's ow kind of sound effects to it. I mean, you definitely hear it clearly right now. I mean, generally speaking though, despite the fact I have to do some bit of commentary here and there, although I'm afraid to tell you for this point guys, there's nothing else I can really speak about, apart from the fact that obviously though we are now onto the final stretch of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version before we head over to the next Sonic game we can able to tackle through for our channel. And that's what appears to be, as I mentioned this before, not only the forms of Sonic & Knuckles standalone version, but on top of that, there's also Sonic Generations for the 3DS, just before, you know, we dive into Sonic X Shadow Generations at some point next year. So either way though, expected to be hyped about it, even for the sake of the forms of some more Sonic Let's Plays to come. So either way though, unless if you really want to be curious enough, if you want me to tackle through more Sonic fan-made games in the future, although I did manage to able to test out with other games in the past, ranging from Sonic Robo Blast 2, and on top of all that stuff though, there's also with the forms of Sonic 3 AIR, which actually stands for Angel Island Revisited, which is basically it's like a PC remake ROM hack for the likes of Sonic 3, but I digress. I think at this point in time, I think that'll be quite enough versions to toggle through at this point in regards to the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in general, because let me tell you, well, again, I never gained sick of replaying this game over and over again, either the Sonic 3 alone, or Sonic & Knuckles standalone, or Sonic 3 and Knuckles combined, and even especially noticeable nowadays with Sonic Origins, despite its controversies, for the likes of the forms of, you know, replacement music and stuff like that. So either way though, and as be expected when it comes to Launch Bay Zone, if you couldn't tell, you might able to actually get hit quite a lot, potentially, not only for the likes of enemy encounters, but also quite a lot of deaths here and there, specifically with this little unexpected spiky thing right there, which again, if you dare manage able to jump in between not only certain spikes, but alongside with the falls that very weird block that does contain spikes on them, you will get crushed, so you have to watch out for that. So anyway, and also those stupid Orbinons are easily gets in my way sometimes, and yeah, that one right there was actually super duper quick to able to actually get a little bit of a drop down right there, but potentially speaking, luckily we've got some rings in the process here, so either way though. And also not to mention though, those stupid little frog-like, what the heck? I have no idea what's going on with that little sprite glitch right there after, you know, defeating that particular enemy right there, which I was not expecting to see that coming, but regardless of everything else though, let's go ahead and spin dash there, just in case we don't able to accidentally fell all the way down. And also, not to mention though, is about the fact there's going to be a lot of crumbling platforms here and there. Anyway, as I was saying about the fact that the only enemy I truly despise the most in this level though, that's what appears to be these stupid frog-like robots, which not only they are painful to deal with, but every time whenever I was trying to attack him and stuff, my god, I keep on getting hit by the stupid little metal arm thingies right there, which, if you know what I mean, if we get on to Act 2 in Launch Base Zone, and even then yeah, Knuckles did somehow showed up, which apparently he decides able to blow up this particular building right there, so thankfully we did somehow make an escape, and potentially speaking I don't think it's possible we can able to turn into Super Sonic at this point, because let's face it though, we keep on getting hit a lot in this particular level anyway, so... And I believe this is now going to be the last mini fight in the game, so just to ensure for the fact that luckily though we can only take down one of them, as opposed to like, I would say 2 of these from the likes of Knuckles' playthrough in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, if I'm assuming so anyway, but generally speaking though, we somehow instantly take this thing down, no problem. So either way, and there's our final gold plate right here, or the gold signage I should say, just before we head over to Sonic and Knuckles eventually at some point, but either way, wow, we didn't get that much bonus, so even then, no, that seems very underwhelming. But either way, now let's get into Act 2 in Launch Base Zone right here. And in fact, funny story actually, is about the fact that when I was younger, I've somehow first experienced this level for the very first time actually, back in sometime in 2005, or technically 2006, because of the ridiculous unlockable requirements. Not so much so for the fact I did somehow manage able to experience this level for the first time, all thanks to the Sonic Gems Collection demo page. So either way though, like, you get the idea. Like, if you try to complete certain tasks in Sonic Gems Collection in the museum mode, basically though is about the fact that you do have the ability to able to play some familiar classic Sonic games based off from Sonic Mega Collection alongside with Sonic Mega Collection Plus, like for instance though with I would say 7 or technically 10 or just, well, anything else in general to me though. And generally speaking, I was about the fact that you can experience the final boss as the actual demos. So yeah, with the actual time limit, oh no. But here's the catch though, is about the fact that unfortunately though, back then, I have to stuck with the this very sluggish 50Hz mode in Journey in Sonic Gems Collection on the GameCube version, especially concerning for the fact that, my god, it sounds really off if you ever experience that particular demo on 50Hz mode, specifically the PAL version of Sonic Gems Collection, because it just goes like, well, it's hard for me to explain, but either way though, unfortunately though, as you can tell, we've come across into our first death of the playthrough, mainly because, as I stated this before, it is so easy to get hit a lot, by the way, in this level. I mean, what do you expect? It's the final zone in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version, so I won't be too surprised about this point. So either way though, yeah, because as far as I'm aware, that it does manage able to contain 7 playable Mega Drive Sonic games, in addition to 6 Sonic Game Gear titles for the final boss demos, as far as I'm aware. Again, based off from Sonic Mega Collection and Mega Collection Plus at the same time. And generally speaking, I was about the fact I found a little bit of appreciation that not only does it able to actually contain certain demos based off from the bad ending from Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Sonic 3. In addition to that, there's also the good ending version of Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version, to make things a little bit of a difference when it comes to seeing alternate endings, if about the fact that if you do collect all the Chaos Emeralds and you name the rest. So either way, and I suppose there's also another thing I want to mention about this, is about the fact that it turns out in when it comes to the forms of Marvel Studios slate. Basically, though, we're about to be receiving, I would say 9 of those particular Marvel projects they're going to be working on, specifically for 2005 anyway, and those are, well, let's just say the nice friendly, or the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, cartoon series as far as I'm aware, and there's also Captain America, Brave New World, and there's also Daredevil, Born Again, and there's also Thunderbolts, and Iron Heart, and the Fantastic Four First Steps, and there's also with the Forms of Eyes of Wakanda, I think is what it says anyway, and there's also Marvel's Zombies, which is kind of interesting, and finally there's Wonder Man, which I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out, but hopefully we'll find out more about it, presumably speaking once we make our way to next year in 2025. So, oh, and speaking of which though, in regards to the Forms of Spider-Man related, did you guys know, it's been 30 years ago since the Forms of Spider-Man, the animated series, was first released. I mean, it is pretty wild able to actually know about the fact that the series has been on for about 30 years ago, since 1994, which as a result, it came out the exact same year as in Disney's The Lion King first came out, alongside with the Forms of, conveniently enough, in terms of video game logic side of things, not only does it came out the exact same year as in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, as well as the Forms of, technically Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World combo pack, and as well as that, Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. And speaking of which though, as you probably already know, about the fact that recently though, Silver has recently managed able to be playing through, well, Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance, able to celebrate the 20th anniversary of that particular version of the game. Although, I'm afraid to tell you for this point guys, is about the fact that unfortunately though, Silver has come across into technical issues recently in regards to the Forms of the continuation parts of the Forms of Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance. So, yeah, I'm afraid to tell you about the fact that the continuation portion of that particular playthrough will be delayed until that particular technical difficulties has been sorted. So because of that though, yeah, it was kind of unexpected, but either way though, it may look like we have to leave Tails behind, because it may look like we're about to be going into the final boss in Sonic 3 standalone version. So either way, and this is also going to be the final time we're going to be seeing Knuckles for this particular playthrough, and I have no idea what's going on with the Forms of Sprite glitch on Knuckles right there. Although, thankfully though, when it comes to the Forms of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, they've managed able to fix the actual bug fixes in regards to the Forms of Sprites and stuff like that. Seriously, it's kind of weird sometimes while looking back on the original Sonic 3 compared to nowadays with the Forms of Sonic 3 and Knuckles combined. So either way though, again, beggars can't be choosers I guess, so either way, so let's go and hop onto this particular platform right there. And fundamentally speaking though, we need to deal with this thing first before we take on the true final boss in Sonic 3 standalone version. So either way though, assuming if you do have the shield in with you, you're pretty much guaranteed able to deal with this boss fight no problemo. But the only thing you need to watch out for is of course that electrical ball thing that just keeps on hovering around Eggman of all things. So either way though, and if you think this entire game is done, well, we've got the final boss to take care of, and this boss is kind of familiar to me, and that's what appears to be called Big Arm. So generally speaking, yeah, all you have to do is about the fact in order to able to deal the amount of damage to Big Arm, you have to utilize the instant shield technique by simply tapping the jump button twice, and then once you time it correctly, you're able to easily try to deal certain damage on Big Arm. So generally speaking, that is the most useful ability, especially concerning for the fact that, well, whenever I first got to this boss fight right here, it did took me about 100 tries to able to actually beat this boss fight for the first time. And generally speaking, that's mainly because I did not know that the instant shield will be your best friend and stuff like that. So either way though, and for those of you probably wondering, yes indeed, the Big Arm will make its return from the likes of Sonic Generations, specifically the 3DS version, as the actual boss fight in a classic era. So either way though, but again, stay tuned for that particular particular, you know, redo playthrough of Sonic Generations for the 3DS version. So either way though, but again, time will tell though, especially concerning for the fact that at this point in time, that you know, Blaze the Cat is obviously doing quite well so far in regards to the forms of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game for the PlayStation 2. So either way though, oh seriously, how do I keep on getting hit? Oh, okay. But thankfully though, about the fact that we can easily obtain those rings again, and kind of thinking about it, Act 2 is going pretty dang long in terms of the forms of launch base zone, but that's just mainly because of Big Arm itself can be quite of a challenge potentially. So either way though, yeah, it's now been 7 minutes, but there we go, we somehow deal with the Big Arm, and that's pretty much about it in terms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version. So either way though, and it may look like about the fact that the platform itself is about to gone loose. And if we pay attention to the background, as you can tell, at one point it was actually dark and stormy, but it's now turned into daylight once again, and it may look like the Death Egg is now fallen. So this means about the fact that, well, let's just say this is going to be the to be continued syndrome, where basically though, the Death Egg has somehow landed on the Angel Island again, but who knows, we'll find out until Sonic and Knuckles will be existence. So, but of course, if you do manage to obtain all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you get yourselves a nice ending where Sonic just somehow jumps off the platform and turn into Super Sonic in the process. So either way though, and we can able to actually hear a different credits theme, which as a result though, basically once again Michael Jackson was actually involved in this and stuff like that, because you know with that kind of like attitude and stuff like that. So either way though, yeah, that's what I can really say about it with the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, but I still really enjoy it even to this day, especially despite it was incomplete. I mean, throughout the adventure though, it's about the fact that there was no way you can able to play as Knuckles in the entire adventure on the first half of Sonic 3, and there was no way we can able to actually access to other areas that Sonic and Tails could not able to actually access to. But oh well, I suppose it really doesn't matter to the grand scheme of things, because after all, this is technically the 3rd time we've somehow experienced Sonic the Hedgehog 3 into our channel with the forms of you know what I'm talking about. But I will admit though right away, you can still able to recommend playing through not only Sonic 3's standalone version, but as well as Sonic and Knuckles combined, or Sonic 3 and Knuckles combined I should say, as well as that though Sonic Origins as well. Well, despite the fact with the actual controversy for this particular soundtrack replacement, as I stated before, because the false licensing issues for the likes of Michael Jackson's involvement or something like that. So either way though, so yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy this particular Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, or should I say Sonic 3 alone, and believe me what I'm saying is about the fact that there's one last thing I want to mention about. Getting able to actually access the level select code is actually a bit of a pain back then, even for Sonic 3 alone. And to do that, you have to simply press up, up, down, down, up, 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 up in the quickest way imaginable. And I did manage to test this out on my spare own time, and let me tell you, it's impossible. But I do know for certain for one thing, there are certain levels that's usually been unplayable, which there are Mushroom Hill, as well as the forms of Flying Battery Zone and Sandopolis. Well, back then, it was actually called Mushroom Valley, but then in the forms of Sonic and Knuckles, it calls it Mushroom Hill Zone. So either way though, yeah, that's what I could really think about it. So yeah, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 standalone version, is that we can able to show off the competition mode. So this will be interesting, and yeah, nothing else we can really say about it basically. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.